your hands on top of your head.
Well, I didn't.
Now!
Here comes the jam. Getting down with the truth. The only way he knows how to. Girl, what's his name? We call him the Chief. The Chief? You're damn right. He's gonna get that sucker. Gonna track down the truth. You know what a track down the truth. You know what do they call him? We call him the Chief. The Chief? You're damn right we do.
I'll bet your mother had a loud bark.
Good morning. This is Morning Coffee with the Chief. I'm your host, Patrick Jordan, here on YouTube's Pop Culture Minefield. You can also find us on Rumble. You can go to Pop Culture Minefield's Facebook page and find us there. And they also post these on their Twitter feed as well. So you can muchos locations where you can find us. You know, you can also find me on X at LSD Jordan. And I post about a wide variety of things. You can also find me with I have my own YouTube channel, and I do a show where we focus on public policy called Briefing with the Chief. So you can find me on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, X. I'm on TikTok too. and Instagram. So we're on all the platforms with that show, and done a lot of great shows. If you go over there and you're into politics, I talk about a wide variety of issues there as well. But before we get into our show, we're going to do Juror number 2, which was probably Clint Eastwood's last movie that he directed. Not that he's done. I mean, that guy just is like the energy bunner. He just keeps going and going and going. But it's a great movie. But before we do that, I got to talk about the Los Angeles Mission in downtown LA. Los Angeles Mission does some great work in helping the homeless. Now, there's been some issues with homeless policy in Los Angeles and Los Angeles County, but the systems and the policies and the methods that the Los Angeles Mission uses is different than that has been implemented by the federal government and local. These guys focus on cognitive behavioral therapy programs. They focus on healing people, not just housing them, and which is what we really need to focus on. And so I want you to do me a favor. And they also, they have a thread of faith in their curriculum, so they can't get any money from government. If they did, they probably wouldn't be using the better programs because they'd be forced to use housing first, which is just a failed strategy. But anyways, go to losangelesmission.org and make a donation today and help out our brothers and sisters that are on the streets of Los Angeles. Okay, now today's movie is, like I said, Juror number 2. And before we get into that, let me bring in our guests here. And we got retired Lieutenant John Baylis in the, what is it? What do they call it? Nevada. It's not the Keystone State. It's, bring John on here. He'll have to help me out there. I can't think of it. Nevada, the gambling state, the prostitution state. I can't think of what we call Nevada. John, you there? Hello, Martine. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we are. Hey, what do they call Nevada? It's the Silver State. Is that it? Silver State. I had to hit the back of my head to get that thought to come forward right as I get
Las
older.
Vegas is Sin City.
In Sin City. All right. Do they still have the Mustang Ranch in that area there? And
oh, that's not here. It's farther up. It's closer to the Bunny Ranch and all that. It's all closer to Reno.
But yeah. You know how to get there, right?
No. No.
All right, let's bring on retired
Sergeant. My wife's standing right there. I'm gonna smack you.
Let's bring on retired Sergeant Scott Orr, and he's in the Tennessee state, the volunteer state. Hey, Scott, how you doing today?
Good, Pat. How are you? John's lying. He gave me directions once.
All right. And Martine, he loved this movie, and he had some thoughts on it. So Martine's going to come up and comment with us today because he enjoyed the movie. And but hey, before we get into the movie, I know that I did 12 Angry Men. I can't remember if both of you guys were on it.
Not me, but it was a great movie.
I mean,
Damn, one
And-
of the best movies I ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
And if you
Well-
watch, yeah. Well, you hadn't seen that movie before I recommended it for the show, right?
Yeah, Henry Fonda, Martin
Yeah.
Balsam. That was a great movie.
And and you see some of that in this movie. And so let me set up.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah. So Juror number 2. Let's see. This was directed by Clint Eastwood and released in 2024. It's a legal thriller directed by Clint Eastwood and starring Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
As a juror in the murder trial, and he realizes he may be connected to the crime. But let's see, we got the writer is Jonathan Abrams, and and I actually liked the story. So I mean, how it flowed. You kind of knew ahead of time that there was some real problems, but it's just how is it gonna? Is everybody going to do the right thing? This becomes a moral test for some of the characters in this movie, right? And let's see, Nicholas Hoult, Toni Collette, and J.K. Simmons. He's the
Simmons. Yeah.
Simmons. We're going to get into that, but he would have never made a jury anywhere. All right, we'll get into that because that's Kiefer Sutherland, and he just had more of a cameo role. Now I do have to say something about. Did you notice how short he looked in this film? He looks small.
He is.
Yeah, he's not that big a guy, and but what?
Nicholas Hoult is very tall, so
Yeah, he made Sutherland look like a munchkin, and
Yeah.
so and you're used to seeing it because Nick he did 24, he did Kiefer Sutherland, he was Stand By Me, Young Guns, I mean A Few Good Men. I mean, he's been in a lot of really good movies. He's a good actor. And you know what? I don't know what his politics are, but which means he's probably
it's left.
He's
But
left.
his dad and Clint go way back. They were in that army movie. I forgot the name of it now.
Yes, Kelly's Heroes. Kelly's
Heroes.
Yep.
Yeah. And but it's so these but yeah, so this had a la 12 Angry Men. You could see some of that bleed out where each character in the jury room had to take a particular role. But the story was interesting, but I was like, in terms of we're all, three of us are retired cops. We're looking at it from this would not have seen a courtroom, right? Wouldn't have been filed, not with the evidence they had. And anyway, so I like the story, but obviously looking at it from the lens of retired cop, it was unrealistic. I don't know. What do you think, Scott?
Well, I was an investigator for a long time. It would have never got filed in L.A. And my wife was asking me about it this morning, like, what do you think? What'd you think? And I said, first of all, it's one of those so what cases. Okay, so what? They got an argument in the parking lot. Okay, yep. So what? She walked away. Okay, so what? He drove away. How are you tying him to beating her and throwing her off a bridge?
Yeah.
I was like,
that's a leap.
That's a big leap. And then they had the eyewitness, and I'm like, so the guy's in a trailer, pouring down rain. It's a bad storm. Pouring down rain, and he can positively identify this guy from 50 yards away. It was just so weak that.
Yep. That's what and that's where it's a la 12 Angry Men, right, John? Because you remember one of the witnesses was an elderly lady, and they had pride and wanted to do something big, and same with this guy, right? So that character. But hey, I did want to. We got a picture of Clint on set, and one of the things I wanted to talk about is why he's so valuable is he makes money. And his filming style is one and done. Get it shot, get it done quickly. He doesn't play around with all the method actors who have to warm up and feel about it. In his opinion, you're professional. Your job is to get it done in one take, and he shoots what he has to do, and then he pieces it together in a story. And so he gets it done on time. He gets it done under budget, which is why he is still sought after. He's 92. Think about that, 92 years old, and he's still working and still making successful movies, because this was one of the top movies in 2024, and it was a good, solid movie. I mean, what do you think, John?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's amazing. But yeah, I've read stuff where he's told actors, hey, just be yourself, do your part. Boom. Print, cut, done. And they goes, well, I could do it better. He goes, no, it's fine. And sure enough, it works every time. These actors know what they're doing, but then, they want to get well, I need to put more heart into it. He's like, shut the fuck up. We're done. Next scene.
Yeah, because he gets to piece it together in the story that he wants to tell. So okay, this piece is good enough. He already has a vision in mind in the story he wants to tell. And these aren't necessarily platforms for any particular actor. He's telling a story, but some of those stories are more character based. And I think like what $1 Million Baby, right? That was a great movie.
Oh,
and but it was very focused on the gal in that movie, right? So, and I don't know, did she win it? I don't remember if she won an award on that movie.
Oh,
but,
I think she did.
I don't know, because I think she won it was for oh my God, Boys Don't Cry.
Boys Don't Cry. Okay, yeah, Hilary Swank. Yeah, so yeah, she did a great job, and he does a great job storytelling, and that's what it's about. It isn't about platforms for actors, and I think having been an actor, he understands. Hey, I understand the business of movie making, and it isn't about them. It's about getting the movie done, getting it done in time, and so that's what I like about him. Right? He's a kind of got some blue collar instincts in him. All right, let's see. Enough of that. Let's start rolling the movie, and we can get into the plot here and see. Let me pull up some of our other characters here as we roll through this. So Nicholas Hoult, I did not remember all the stuff he did when I started this movie, and I had to look back at some of the movies he was in. But he's been around for a little while. He was in Mad Max. And I had to remember he was like the sickly urchling guy that was sided with Mad Max, I guess, and I hadn't seen him. And he's also one of the
X-Men.
The X-Men, yes. I can't remember which one he plays in that, but
Beast.
Yeah, Beast. He was the young Beast. Later on, they used Kelsey
that's
Grammer
right.
to play the older Beast.
Yeah, and didn't he says Kelsey Grammer was using it. He was the first Beast, and then this guy became a Beast. He said that he took inspiration from Kelsey Grammer's Beast, which I guess you'd have to continue.
He played the original. When they do the flashbacks and they make where they really started, he played the younger one. But yeah, he got his stuff from Kelsey. Also, he played Renfield.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He did a good job in that. He's an English actor.
And I do remember from Jack the Giant Slayer too, which is a kind of a fun movie. But
and Nosferatu. He was in Nosferatu years ago. Oh my God, that movie is awesome.
Yeah. So he's a good. And then J.K. Simmons, I like him too. Now
he's phenomenal.
He's a great actor, and his career kind of has taken off as he gotten older, right? He's just he's like wine. He just matures with age there, and keeps getting roles, and is very busy and very
that one
recognizable.
movie where he was the music teacher, and I can't remember the name of the movie, and he was a hard ass. He played a great role in that, and I think he got a nomination for supporting actor. But he also played in The Accountant as an FBI agent, or an ATF agent, and he's played in several things. Spider-Man, he was the reporter.
Yeah,
he's been in a lot of stuff. I like him. He's a great actor.
It looks like he was nominated or including winning an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. So he's a great actor, and I like him in this one, except he does all the things he shouldn't do. Right, Scott?
Not as well. As an investigator, he was spot on, but as a juror, no.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Had he actually told them he was a cop, he never would have been on the jury.
Never been on, but then they didn't ask.
They didn't ask. So all right. So you're a retired cop. All right, we're all retired cops. You get called. They don't ask. Are you going to raise your hand and say, "Hey, wait a minute," because you want off the jury? Are you going to keep your hand down just you're curious to see what's going to happen? I mean, so here he is. He's the retired cop. He ends up on the jury, and he's just. So what's in his mind, right? let's see how far this will go before.
I think he went with the express intention of conduct his own investigation.
Oh, well, you mean got on the jury?
He knew the case. He knew that the case was weak, that was badly formed, and he said, "Nah, I'm gonna get into this and save that kid."
Well, so you're sitting in the jury box and they're going through voir dire, they're asking questions and all this other stuff, and he knows that 99.999% of the defense attorneys are going to bounce him, right? I mean, they're not going to let him sit on a jury as a former cop. None of us will probably ever sit on a criminal jury, right?
They didn't let my wife be a juror.
Really?
No, they said, do you have any are you a police officer? Or do you have any ties to police officers? And she's like, well, my dad was a police officer in the Navy. My husband's a police officer. And they're like, okay, you're out. I told a friend of mine, he goes, what do I tell him? I said, well, tell him you're friends with a cop. And what are your view of cops? And tell them, I look at it as if a cop arrests you, you're guilty. And so you use that line and you're gone.
Well, and
I got
here it
picked
is.
on a jury here in Vegas a couple years ago for a bombing. A worker at one of the hotels put a bomb in a coffee cup for his wife's lover and blew him up. But they excused me because at that time I was taking care of my parents and I couldn't spend the whole week there. So I was picked. But and what I don't like though is if you get in there, I could, being an investigator, you look at other police departments. Did they do this properly?
Yeah.
Were they shoddy? That type of stuff.
You're holding them to the standard that you would expect,
exactly,
and instead of evaluating the evidence, right? So, but here we are in the court, and so essentially, obviously, this is what they think is a homicide, and it's not. Obviously, when we figured out it's what would they do it when? But if the guy here's a question. So he hits somebody. We do find out that our main character does hit something. He never.
He thought it was a deer.
No indication whatsoever that he knew that he hit somebody, right?
Right.
And then he leaves. So, and he's not driving fast. It doesn't appear like he's driving. Not drunk. They can't prove that, even though they say, well, because you were an alcoholic, they're going to imply. None of that crap can happen, right? It just can't.
No.
Right.
No, but they'll put it in there, and they'll try. Like the Democrats always put shit in there that doesn't belong. But he was at the bar. He admits that he didn't drink. He said he's a known alcoholic. But he got out of his car. He looked. You couldn't see it because of the rain. He couldn't see down below. He had no idea. He figured he hit a deer and it ran away.
Well, so here's my question. Okay, so what's the charge?
Well, it'd be hit and run.
But he had to know. He had to know that he hit a person.
Exactly, manslaughter. In the worst case.
But how is it manslaughter if it's not negligent? I mean, if it's really dark and she's walking in the roadway, that's the other part of this. Walking in the roadway, narrow roadway,
in the rain, could barely see. Is there any criminal intent?
No.
I was thinking, I don't think so. It's when he knowingly convicts the guy. I think is when he starts getting liability, right? So I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but the whole circumstances.
It's all the fault of his lawyer. His lawyer is the one who say, "No, keep your mouth shut."
It's Southern's fault. You need to convict or else, right? Are they going to come after you eventually, right? I mean, you're right, Martine. That's what. So so I kept thinking, well, what do you charge the guy with? I mean, if because they don't have any evidence to say his story is not true. None.
I agree.
Zero.
If he'd have come forward right away, I think it would have been the end of it. But he didn't, and then he tried to hide it.
Right, by doing.
When he realized, but he was not guilty.
There we go.
Keeper Sutherland said he was. His lawyer and his AA aide, Alcoholics Anonymous aide, but that's bullshit.
So he violated oath as a juror. I think that's the one you're getting at. And I don't know. I have never heard a prosecution for that. Would that, what would that be? I don't know. Because he's in there convicting, knowing full well there's reasonable doubt.
Yeah, I don't. He's driving. It's dark. She's walking, and he hits her, but he doesn't know it. Like you said, he thinks he hit a deer, and there is the deer crossing sign right there.
Yeah.
So, if I don't know what you'd arrest him on.
Yeah,
he thinks he hit a deer, so you don't have hit and run because he didn't know he hit the deer or the girl. He thinks he hit a deer, which isn't illegal. But I think he screwed up when he went and then he found out that this guy's going for murder, which like I said, I don't know how that works, but on that case, I mean, even if after this convicting this guy, I don't think you could go back and charge him with hit and run. And then his attorney's like, well, you've been convicted of a DUI, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, none of that's admissible.
Yeah, he's probably a tax attorney. This guy, is giving him advice or something.
Yeah, and all he told him was,
I need an attorney.
Yeah, just don't include that paperwork. It'll be fine.
All he told him was, you need a conviction,
right?
Or not. You need a verdict, either conviction or not guilty. So I don't know. Yeah, he's probably a tax attorney. Nice. Give me $1. That way we have client attorney privilege. So give me $1.
So yeah, but so this is he's in they're already seated the jury. He's in the jury box here, but this is a story of dilemmas, but it's really not just his dilemma, right? It's the prosecutor's dilemma as she figures out that there's problems in this case. And now for me, I had some real problems in this case. So as John said, they get in an argument at a bar. Right, her and her boyfriend, the victim and her boyfriend get in an argument at the bar. He's got a history of violence, seems to be a bit controlling. And but she gives it. It looks like to me she gives it back as much as she gets it. The victim.
They were both.
Yeah. So this is foreplay for them, I guess. I don't know. I don't understand it myself, but
it was a toxic relationship.
Yes, and it's all on public display. She goes in one direction. He ends up following her to get in his car, and he goes home. And that's it. There's no evidence of anything else, right? Nothing. And that's what they go on to convict him. And there are times, and the prosecutor in this case did use his background against him. But still, I think the one key thing is the eyewitness that links him there. But even then, it's so weak. At first, it looks like to me the defense attorney is doing a decent job, but he should have dug into all that stuff, and he didn't dig into that and ask those questions. He was trying to create doubt. You could see that happening. But here's our main character realizing as they go through the story that he might actually be the person involved, and he goes and throws up, right? But this is, for me, this is where I just thought the case was so incredibly weak. I'm surprised it went forward. I know they said that the DA was running, or the gal was running for DA, so she needed a conviction. And maybe this was a small town that she needed to get the conviction. Was it Savannah, Georgia? I think this was. So, and she was trying to be the DA there, I guess. But yeah, it was so weak. I just can't see this case moving forward. And that bothered me all through the movie, Scott. I don't know what you think.
Well, the statement made that first they said that he beat her.
Yeah.
So never found a weapon that he beat her with.
Right.
Supposedly beat her with. And the eyewitness only saw the car and him outside of the car. Never like if I was a defense attorney, I said, "Did you ever see him make a motion like he was striking somebody?" No. How far away were you? Did the police ever come interview you? Like when she went to interview and the guy's like, "Yeah, they just showed me one picture." I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, that right there. Oh.
We all did the same thing, I bet. Oh.
Oh no.
So I knew it was the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It also reminded me of, he's looking through the window and the screen. All the trees are in the way, and it's pouring rain, like Scott said. Do you remember the movie My Cousin Vinny?
Yes.
One of the best movies ever made. The one guy says, "Well, I saw the car, and I saw those kids do this." Well, number one, he was making grits, which takes a certain amount of time. But you look through his window, you couldn't see anything out. It was so filthy.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Well, I always went on an investigation on the premise that I remember my first training officer told me, when you write a report, you're not writing it for the prosecution, you're writing it for the defense. So write it as if the defense attorney standing there asking you questions. What are you going to do in court? Don't write it like you're just trying to convict them. Write it like it happened, but write it that you're going to be questioned on what you're writing. So make sure you know what you're writing. And that was the same way with investigations. I would do my investigations on, okay, what are they going to try to hit me on in court?
Yeah.
And
I was told to write it as if, you have a jury that doesn't understand what you're doing. You want to make sure, keep it simple, stupid, the KISS system.
Yes.
You're absolutely right, Scott.
Yeah, it's like, I would have looked at this case and gone, oof. And then no weapon. You got a lonely guy who's out in the middle of nowhere in his trailer. I mean, when you were there asking him questions, if he saw anything, you didn't even notice that you can't see shit from where he sits. I mean,
yep. Well, obviously, the thing with this one is because the girl took the video of them in the club and outside arguing, the cops, that was it. That's right. They got tunnel vision. They didn't look for anything else. They didn't look at his car to see if that happened, if it was a hit and run. They just said, she was bludgeoned. Well, you fall over a cliff like that and land on those rocks, you're going to look like you're bludgeoned. But, they did not do any other police work and investigative inquiry on anything. They should have.
Right. And then J.K. Simmons, I always call him Ray King from The Accountant. That was his name in the movie.
Oh, he's great.
He pointed that out. He's like, hey, they never, once they got tunnel vision, they just zeroed in on him and didn't care about anything else. Like,
yep.
And then he started investigating it himself. He's like, but sometimes, that happens. You get a big city cop. Right. Now he's in this small town, and he's like, I don't know about this.
That's like, that's like In the Heat of the Night, the movie In the Heat of the Night. I don't know if you guys ever see it with Sidney Poitier. The big city cop comes in, and the local yokels, clearly are beyond their depth in the homicide. But the gal could have easily fallen off the roadway too, off this bridge down there. So it's not, there's so much in terms of reasonable doubt in this case, and which is why it should never have even been brought, right? And which is how I see it. But we gotta talk about Clint's effort to humanize this guy, right? So he goes out of his way to make our main character here look very sympathetic, good guy, married, former alcoholic, recovering, doing well. His wife is pregnant, and so he really makes you feel like this is a good guy, right? Which is the whole thing. This is a good guy, but he's facing this moral decision, right, John? So, and he does a pretty good job of that. Sweet little wife, she's pregnant.
Well, that's the crux of the whole story. Absolutely.
Yeah, and So, and you like him, and he becomes a likable guy, right? He could be just your average Joe, a little bit of a bad background in terms of drinking, but he's recovered and he's good, and he's got his life on the right track. And if you think about it, he really did nothing wrong up until the point where he's in the jury box and he faces this moral dilemma.
You're absolutely right.
He really,
and I think part of that moral dilemma is he was so bad, and his wife is the one that saved him.
Yes.
And then they got married and had the baby, or having the baby. But he even says in there, if it wasn't for her, I could be dead right now. You know, she saved me. So he doesn't want, now with the baby coming, to ruin that homogeneous family that he has now and everything that he's gotten through. So yeah, it was very well done in that aspect.
And then the contrast to him in comparison to the suspect they picked. I'm going to say that because that's really what happened, right, Scott? The suspect they picked.
Yeah, they basically said, well, they got in an argument. He was angry, so he had to kill her. I don't know how he made the stretch, but but again, it's, you know, we've seen a lot of these movies where the cops, you know, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen. They take the evidence in a case and they bend it to where it shows that the suspect is the killer, or they bend the evidence in order to support who they think the suspect is.
Yep.
And you can't do investigations that way. You got to go to where the evidence takes you, not trying to turn the evidence where you want it to go. You got to follow it where it takes you. You can't try to spin it or turn it. And they basically said, oh, they had an argument in the bar. They were both been drinking. She started walking. They argued. He left shortly after, so he had to kill her.
Wait. Why do you need evidence when you have the public opinion?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And I think that is what this movie is about, because everybody just said, yeah, I know he did it. Why? Because I think so.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, she's running for election. You're absolutely right, Martine. The public says, well, he's got to do it. He's got tattoos all over him. He looks like a thug. He's probably been in and out of jail, and so it had to be him. And so she's running for election, and everybody in the community is on her before the election to get this guy convicted for the murder. So the DA's turning a blind eye to things that should have slapped her in the face. And then after Ray King or J.K. Simmons starts investigating and showing her, then all of a sudden the light bulb starts to go on. Like, then again, she waits until after she got elected.
Exactly.
Right after she got elected, then suddenly she has. Well, let's back up though. We gotta talk about a 6-pack, right? So showed him a picture, right? Because we just saw him. The old guy was on the stand, so we got to explain to everybody. So when the cops show him a picture, what does that do? That taints the identification, right, Scott?
Exactly.
How is it supposed to happen, Scott? We'll let you explain that.
Well, you make what they call, the sheriff's department. Some departments just throw a bunch of pictures on the table and tell you. But normally, in case law, you got to have a minimum of 6 people. So you put them in a folder with nothing except it's a folder that's specifically made to put pictures in. You take it out there, you show them the folder, and you just say, do you recognize anybody in this folder? And they look at it and they go, yeah, that's the guy. And they're like, okay, did you pick number 2? And most of the time, like I did, I recorded it.
Yeah.
So that way, if you went to court and they said, well, the guy gets up there and says, I didn't pick number 2, and then you play the recording, and then they're like, oh yeah, I guess I did pick number 2, which is a suspect.
No, that's smart, Scott. Absolutely. You know, we used to joke around. We'd get that 6-pack with the 3 squares in their pictures. Then we'd circle one, put arrows on it, and stars. Which one is it?
All right, we gotta lay this out to you, but they also have to be. They don't have to be exactly looking like, but they can't be like. Similar. okay, the suspect's a white dude, and you got 2 black guys and 2 Hispanic guys and a woman on there. It has to be representative of the description, right?
Right,
at the very least, right?
Like if it's a male white, you don't, it's got to be the suspect and 5 other male whites. You can't put Hispanics or blacks or women. So, and it's got to be a similar appearance. And sometimes that's hard to go through stacks and stacks of photos to try to get somewhat close to the suspect. Because if it's glaringly off, it's not going to get, the judge is going to look at, well, when you go in for prelim, the judge is going to go, no, this 6-pack is tainted.
Exactly. Yeah, putting 5 black guys and 1 white guy. And white. Yeah, that's not good.
I've read case law where it's even like, so if the pictures you use are 5 of them are dated, really old, and then you got a new one, right?
Yeah.
Remember, we used to put, you'd have a whole box full of pictures, right? If you're putting 6-packs together. And at least where I worked as a detective, and you had to make sure you did. Okay, let's get this one from the 40s, and put it. They had to. Even the backgrounds needed to be very, white. Everybody's in a white background. Everything had to be very similar, so there was no telltale sign that you're pointing out who the suspect is in any possible way. So, so when, in the movie, when they said, yeah, he showed me a picture, and so of course he's the guy who did it, so I picked him out, which is what eventually comes out. So yeah, that was legally that wouldn't have passed muster, right? And that if you had a good defense attorney, I liked the defense attorney in the movie. I can't remember his name. He was doing a pretty good job there until he hit this, and I was like, why isn't he digging into the identification? I actually wrote
exactly.
That note. Why isn't he challenging the guy? Here's our defense attorney right here. Why isn't he challenging the guy's ability to see? And it just bothered me because that the 6-pack, because what happens once you do that identification, right? The 6-pack then becomes part of the case. It gets submitted as evidence, and if you don't have that, I mean, this is basic 101 defense attorney stuff. So obviously, nothing on Clint, but Clint did ignore some of the basic nomenclature of criminal prosecution and to tell this story, right? Because that wouldn't have made it
right. But he didn't write the story, so
yeah, I know. But he's telling it on film, right? But like I said, nothing against him. It's just, but that just doesn't pass.
You're absolutely right.
Well, the car, they didn't even process the car.
Yeah. Right.
So how do you know if he bludgeoned her to death and he had a weapon? I mean, the blood spatter would have been all over his clothing. Once he got in the car, blood be on the seat or on the console or on the steering wheel. They didn't even process the car. It's like,
yeah, they said they couldn't find a weapon, but they didn't even look in the car.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, he could have thrown it away. Okay, well, still there'd be some trace evidence in that car.
Right. Well, and they put him on the stand. They put our suspect on the stand. I was like, okay, wait a minute. The only thing they have is the old guy, which had they done a good examination, whatever, cross-examination on this guy, they could have ripped his testimony apart. I don't know why he didn't do that. But then he put the guy on the stand, right? And I thought that was a mistake because I didn't think he did himself any favors when he got on the stand. That would have been unusual too, right? Because the only evidence they had connecting him to, because even the guy's testimony, yeah, I saw him get out of the car, look at his car. He's not seeing an assault, right? Even the old guy, right? He's not seeing an assault, not seeing anybody hit somebody else with a weapon. He only sees one person. And you know what? And they didn't delve into that. They didn't so you didn't see any assault. You didn't see this. You didn't see any other person. And they didn't really get into that. And so go ahead.
He got the worst defense ever.
Yeah, I was not impressed with his public defender.
Yeah,
well, he even said that. I'm a public defender and I'm busy. I'm swamped.
Yeah.
Give me a break. I think there was a love interest between the two of them also.
Yes.
defender and the DA. But when they put the witness on the stand, the one thing I thought was pretty cool is he goes, "Do you see that man?" And he looks at Nicholas Hoult in the jury box, and Hoult kind of nuts up, and then he goes, "Oh, funny. There he is over here."
that was good movie making there, right?
Yeah.
So because he's thinking he's truly a good witness, and he's not, right? And
you could have chopped him up on the stand. Did you see any blows being thrown? Did you see any hitting motion? No, he just looked at his car. So, okay, again, if the cops come to interview you and you say, "Yeah, well, what did he do?" "Oh, he got out and he looked at his car." Wouldn't, as an investigator, the light bulb go on like, maybe she was hit by a car? And that's what Ray King or J.K. Simmons is like, wait a minute. Why did the guy testify that he saw him get out and look at his car? So did he hit her with the car instead of a weapon? I mean, there were so many questions. And then his public defender doesn't ask anything.
Right.
No, it was awful.
And I don't think the cars match too. Remember, they start tracing the car that was actually
the only thing, they were both SUVs, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. And so so this is why it just bothered me. Because there were so many weaknesses in the case, and but this is where I have my problem. The prosecutor, when you look at a case, you have an obligation constitutionally, right? If it's not there, if you don't think if you don't think you can convict beyond a reasonable doubt, or the evidence doesn't support a reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, then you shouldn't take it forward. And I think it's clear to anybody in this particular case, it just wasn't there. So, I'll just tell you, I'm working on a show where the Soros funded DA in Travis County, Texas, is prosecuting a cop for the force that they used to break up protests in 2020. Now he took them all to a grand jury. He indicted 19 of them or 20 of them, and he then dropped. 2 years later, he drops the charges on 17 of them. And part of the problem is with these using the grand juries that are secret is they don't present all the evidence if they want to get an indictment, which is what the accusation against this guy is, Jose Garza. And ultimately he had to drop, but he's going to trial on one case in June, one of those cases, those officers, and it comes out that he hid exculpatory evidence. The
DA or the officer?
The DA hid the exculpatory evidence on the officer. They had the DA. The crux of the case is they were using beanbag rounds, and the beanbag rounds were defective because they sat in the armory for a long time, and that contributed to the injuries of the protesters. At least that's what the defense's contention is, and it's acknowledged that they were out of date and defective. And the DA was going to go after the city itself and the police leadership, and they had conversations. He had conversations. The DA had conversations with city leadership, and then he declined to go after him. And he never made that information available to the defense. And as you guys, you're following me probably. So if you don't make this available to the defense, because if the defense's argument is I was given defective ammunition, this was a big part of it, which would say that he's not guilty, and the DA hid it. That's a violation of Brady, right? You do not give all your information, in discovery to the defense, and so that's a big thing that's just popped up. And so I just started the research that this is a common tactic used by the progressive prosecutors when they go after cops, is ignoring exculpatory evidence, hiding exculpatory evidence, and just to get that indictment and that conviction. That seems to be the pattern. That's because he's not the only one. Larry Krasner in Philly has done this, and some of these other DAs. And so, but as a DA, though, it doesn't matter who it is. You have an obligation to uphold the Constitution, and that supersedes convictions. That supersedes getting a conviction. And this is where, if she's a good DA, she'd have seen it's just not there, right? It's just not there. I can't do it. So they do have an obligation, John, to uphold the Constitution above and beyond convictions, right?
Yep. And that's like January 6th. A lot of exculpatory evidence was destroyed, and all those people are out of jail now. But anybody that does that is just disgusting. I don't care if the guy's a bad guy, that's great, but you got to give all the evidence to both sides.
And let's be clear, obviously that constitutionally, that's the obligation. But if we're talking about criminals who are in the life, they're going to give you another opportunity to get them, right, Scott?
Oh yeah.
I was just going to say that there was many a times where I knew the guy was guilty of the shooting. I knew he pulled the trigger. I had informants tell me he pulled the trigger, but I didn't have any evidence other than hearsay, because I'm getting it from informants, and they're all fellow gang members, and it's like I'd have to at least try to file it. That's my job. But like we were saying, as a DA, your job is to uphold the Constitution. Well, you swear in to uphold the Constitution to become a cop.
Yep.
And I took it very seriously. Like, I'm not the guy that's going to try to get a conviction on this guy for whatever reason. Yeah, he's a scumbag and he's up to all kinds of no good. I know that. But I'm not going to be the guy that gets up on the stand and has to make shit up to try to get this guy convicted.
Right.
So there was a DA at Compton, which is in itself is a different
court environment.
System there. But he was tough to get stuff by because he took his job as the filing DA seriously.
Yeah.
So I'd go up there, but he was hard to get cases approved for anything. But I would go in there and shoot the crap with them. He loved to travel, so we'd talk about travel and everything. But he got to respect me because I would take the case up to him, and I'd say, no file on this one. I go, it's a dog. It's a dog. We don't. So he declined to file. But then if I went to him and said, this is a good case, he'd sign off and let it go through. But
after he read it and assured
after he read it and
absolutely
asked me questions on it and stuff like that, but he would sign it off. And everybody's like, how do you get your cases by him? I said, because I'm honest.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like I'm in there bullshitting him on a case that, and like you said, Pat, I may not, you may have got the cheese this time, but the cat's coming. We got it this time. Next time you won't be so lucky. I might find the gun in your house. Then what are you going to say? That kind of stuff. So as a cop, you have an obligation to follow the Constitution. And just because a guy's a scumbag, you don't try to make everything fit to convict him.
No, you're absolutely right, Scott. And good on you. But on the opposite of that, too, when I had to file at Beverly Hills Court, where most of the DAs first start, they have a couple there that are older. They stay there for a while, but they want their 95% conviction rate.
Yes.
And they'll look at a case that has a shitload of evidence and deny it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, shake your head sometimes.
Well, we have to understand, because I've talked about this when I do my other show, because one of the things is, because obviously the whole migrant thing comes up, right? And, you have to, they can deport people who have convictions, but people who also make admissions, right? And when I explain to people, because they say, well, only, like I just saw a headline today, 28% of those deported have convictions. And it's like, okay, so if I arrest somebody and I take it to a DA, like let's say Gascon, for example, and he decides, well, I'm not going to file any of these charges, not because you don't have the evidence to convict, but because I ideologically don't believe in it, right? So, or a legitimate DA, okay, I'm stacked up with some really tough cases. I'm going to dismiss these lower level cases just because I don't have the staff. There is the business of running a DA's office, right? And when I interviewed the DA in Harris County, Texas, now she was a progressive DA, but she was still a career prosecutor. And so she had some conflicts with the host Soros organizations. And they ended up primarying her and getting her out of there. Her name was Kim Ogg, but she wanted more money because she did want to do some prosecutions, and she got sideways with the progressive prosecutor movement because she wanted to do prosecutions. So what she was doing is she was she was taking the lower level cases and she wasn't prosecuting any of them because she didn't have the budget. But she wanted more money to prosecute some of them because she recognized the importance of prosecution to keep the community safe. So I think there is, when it comes to prosecution, to your point, John, yeah, they want a 95% conviction rate, but they also, I remind people, they're managing a budget, right?
No, that's true.
So it's like, okay, we're gonna let, set a higher criteria because we just don't have the bandwidth to do everything. And as I do my show around the country, it isn't just the prosecutors that are getting manipulated. It's also like the county boards, like our county board here in LA. They're hard left, and they think care first for everything and jail never for anything, right? So there's no doubt in my mind they're undercutting the DA's Nathan Hochman's budget here in LA. No doubt in my mind, and they're undercutting the sheriff's budget because they're down like 2,000 people. So and I don't see that changing. I don't see that changing at all because they don't believe in it. They've embraced this utopian mindset that all will be good, even if we don't prosecute. So
it's all good until something happens to them, and then it's like we got to go after these people,
or leave the state, or leave the state. Yes,
but it's all about money if you break it down.
Yeah.
If you got all these feel-good programs that really, I'm not trying to be cynical, or they don't do anything. You come back and find out there's all kinds of fraud going on. But the county, the cities, they all get federal money for putting on all these programs.
Right.
So if they're not, I'm going to get money to start these rehab programs. And maybe one person shows up, but I'm getting millions of dollars. The city's getting millions of dollars to build these programs. And, well, now the police department, we got to take money from them because now we're getting short because now different president comes in and says, we're not giving you all this money. So now they got to find money. It's all about the dollar. It's all about the money.
Yeah, they have these community programs or even programs based in prison that they say will do recidivism, but the data doesn't support, because I was digging into that to try and figure it out, and they don't have any they're on the dashboard for California Department of Corrections. Their data only goes to 2020. So you have no idea the people released in the last 6 years, whether they recidivate or not. And, and they have different definitions for recidivism. So in these treatment programs, and, but I looked at the arrest rate, it was like 68%, were rearrested within 3 years. To me, that indicates a failure. But, that also indicates to me why they're not showing accurate, up-to-date information, because they don't want that. And now they're releasing this. I don't know if you guys saw that two pedophiles up in Sacramento County released within 30 days on this elder parole thing. Both had received sentences of over like 300 years, and then after 26 years, the other one after 27 years are being released. And in their 60s, they're in their 60s, because we have this elder, I call it the senior citizen discount for thugs, but it's if you've been in jail for 25 years and you're older 50, then no matter what your sentence was, you're eligible for parole, and so they're releasing these. Yeah, so one guy, 7 victims under the age of 7. The last one, a 3-year-old. Kidnapped them and sexually abused them. The other guy, five boys under the age of, I want to say, 10, and kidnapped. Like he had like 20 different charges, and they let them out. they're letting them out. It's crazy. I just did some research. I'm going to talk about that soon. But yeah, it's crazy what's going on.
That's why we need wood chippers.
It's the dog effect.
The what effect?
Well, I always tell people, people say, well, jailing these people 25 to life or, no possibility of paroles. I said, well, if you have a dog that bites, what, you're going to let them out and hope they don't bite again?
Yep.
I mean, so you let these old timers out. Are you sure that they're not going to go back to be doing?
Well, they say that their recidivism rate's really low, right? That's what they say. And I think
they're so full of shit.
Here's the thing: it may statistically be low, but you forget the other statistic that you're not counting. That sexual abuse cases are historically underreported, so we really don't know what the true number is. We don't know, and there are some people's crimes that are so vile that we should, and they're so evil, we shouldn't let them out. But we gotta let's get back
That's
to
why we need wood chippers.
Yeah. Okay, so JK here. So they just got admonished because they found out that JK was a cop and doing an investigation as a juror. Okay, let's talk about this. So we did kind of allude to it a little bit. Generally, if you are law enforcement or retired, you're going to get kicked off a jury, right? The prosecution might want to keep you on, but they're going to use, the defense will use exemplary challenges, or even the court just might say, no, we don't want you, right? Because for me, it's like, God, you would think that, even as I was a cop sitting on the jury, I want them to get the right guy. So if I really have some problems with the case, I'm going to say that, right? But also you understand you're not going to be swayed by the nonsense that the defense attorney might use to build doubt, right, in your mind, right? And the other, here's the other problem for the defense is, particularly all of us who are investigators, they know the process that we have to go through to even get a filing of a charge, let alone an indictment, get through a preliminary hearing. More cases get this, you know what I mean? It's not easy, right? So we already know that this has been vetted and viewed by a lot of other people in the process. So we're going to have a lot more faith in what the prosecutor's doing, and the whole defense attorney is to, obviously undermine people's faith in the prosecution. So that's why we would be kicked off, right? And so this is why. But I also think, so does JK have an obligation, even though he wasn't asked, to volunteer that information during jury selection? What's your opinion, John?
I think so.
Yeah, I think
he
so
should.
Too.
Personally, I can look at a case and get rid of all that other stuff. But like you said, the DA will want to keep me. The defense will say, I think he has a moral obligation to let everybody know where his background is.
What say you, Scott?
Well, if I was a gang detective for 10 years. If I got put on a jury, the first thing I'm going to do is go through that case and nitpick the crap out of it.
Yeah,
sure.
And then go, they got nothing here. I would have been like, I would have said, told the bailiff, I need to talk to the judge or the district attorney, because there's no evidence here that he killed her.
Right. Yeah, but okay, so you're in the jury box, and do you have a moral obligation to say, hey, yeah, I'm retired law enforcement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course you do. I mean, what? And plus, why would you even want to be on a jury?
I know. Well, this is where I think now his character, now he's helping his wife run a flower shop, and he used to be, 25 years, was it Chicago?
Yeah,
he's in the big city cop, and now he's in Timbuktu somewhere. And no offense to anybody in Savannah, Georgia, there. He's in the hinterland. He's not the big homicide guy, because he wasn't just any detective. I was a homicide detective, right? That's what he says.
Yeah.
And I'm happy being a has-been. Once was, right? In retirement. I'm there. I'm good. I'm enjoying life.
I'm a gentleman farmer in Tennessee.
Exactly. Well, maybe he's a little bored, and he's looking for a little excitement too. And this is it for him, right? And
yeah.
he goes,
I had enough excitement.
yeah, I know. Well, but you know,
31 years. I don't need any more. Too old to deal with that.
Because I'm trying to figure out why would he stay with this, and then he begins the investigation. But hey, we're at the halfway mark, so we're gonna roll with the commercial break, and we'll come back and continue our talk about J.K. investigation of this crime and the rest of this movie. Martin, are you ready?
Yeah, give me a sec. Well,
Tú es listo.
John is ready.
Tú es listo. John is gone.
Man, he's been holding
Bye.
it for
I'll see you in 2 minutes.
There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all: movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis. Official scoops from Geekosity magazine. Reviews and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop Culture Minefield. Where they're always talking nerdy nerd stuff. Right, jog on then. There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all: movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis. Official scoops from Geekosity magazine. Reviews and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop Culture Minefield. Where they're always talking nerdy nerd stuff. Right, jog on then.
Welcome back to Morning Coffee with Chief, and again, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody who's joining us and watching this show. So we still are waiting for Johnny B. See,
yeah, he hasn't come yet.
He hasn't come back yet. Okay, well, all right. So J.K., he starts his investigation as a juror. That's what I always thought. That's the other part, Scott. So now you end up on a jury. Are you going to go out and investigate it yourself, or you're just going to say? All right, let's do it the right way. So as a juror, if you realize there's holes, it's just a not guilty no matter what, right? You don't go out and investigate. You just say you don't have evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to convict him. That's what J.K., if he stayed on the jury, should have done, right? And he should have said that. That's,
Yeah, he should have just.
Did we lose you?
No, I was just reading the comment here. He should have just told the rest of the jury not guilty, and then started telling them why you think it's not guilty. Well, this never found this, never processed the car, never did this, never did that. They only showed him one picture, and that was a picture of the suspect. That's and I would tell him all the reasons why this case does not. There's no evidence, any real evidence other than circumstantial, and
minor circumstantial at that.
Yeah, a lot of it isn't even circumstantial. So they got in an argument in the parking lot. So what?
That's it. Yeah,
they're not the first ones to get in an argument in the parking lot, and then he drove away. He got in his car and drove away. Well, they didn't even tell you which direction. Did he drive to his home? Did he drive down? Which direction did he drive? I mean, there's so many holes, and that's what he should have done.
Scott,
He should have told the jurors, this is why I don't think he's guilty. But no, then he starts doing this investigation.
Of course he's guilty. He broke a bottle.
Yeah, exactly.
That should be enough.
He got mad and hit a beer bottle onto the floor.
No, I think it was a bottle of Jameson, so that would have been a real crime if he'd done that.
Especially on St. Patty's Day.
Yeah. So the question, John, says it was what should J.K. have done? He found himself on a jury and he realized there's holes. Not investigate, but he should have just pointed out that there's not a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah,
here
I agree with Scott. 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's if he found himself, that's what he should have done. But then what does he do? He starts doing, and that is jury misconduct when you start actually investigating the crime yourself, right, John? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But hey, at least you wanted to know. But yeah, it's just TV. It's Hollywood. But yeah, it's misconduct, and they took him off the jury. But what was funny is they didn't take Chucklehead off,
which is because they, yeah, right. Because and she admonished J.K. The judge did, but chose because of his long years as a civil cop. I think she said something like this: she wasn't going to hold him in contempt of court. But what he was doing, what the cops should have done, right, Scott?
Yeah, we were doing exactly. I mean. Like I said before, you're not trying to make the suspect fit the evidence. You want the evidence to fit the suspect, and they're just doing whatever they can to make the suspect match what they have. And they decided it was a murder right off the bat, so it's got to be a murder. We're not going to look at anything else.
Yeah, lazy police work.
Just count anything that comes in to keep it that it's a murder. So. He would have been gone and if it wasn't Hollywood, both of them would have been off the jury.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yes, right.
Because the judge would have said, did you talk to him about this? Yeah, we sat and talked and looked at okay, you both talked about it, so you're tainted.
Yes.
Both of you are gone.
Yes.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Now, as now J.K. has gone off the jury, right? And but here's the thing: but he gives the DA the information that he had, right? So this is planting the seed in the DA's mind, which should have been planted at the beginning of this case, that there's some doubt in this case. But what we see between the jurors is the a la 12 Angry Men, right? We see different characters take different positions. Not like one of them was, I just want to get out of here, let's just get this over with. And then the one guy, remember I forget the great character actor's name now, but he was the guy, he was emotionally invested in 12 Angry Men in the conviction because it reminded him of his son, right? Remember, John, that part of it?
Yeah.
And the black guy kind of took that. It wasn't, he's guilty. Did you see his tattoo? That's what this is the kind of guy he is. Yeah, you remember that, Martine, right? And so so Clint clearly took some inspiration from 12 Angry Men, which is not a bad deal, because that was an excellent movie. And the other thing that I really liked it about 12 Angry Men, and you see some of it here, is the interplay of the characters. Now it's different here because our guy here is kind of playing the Henry Fonda role, but he has an outcome in mind to help himself, not to get to justice, right? It's a little different there, but I don't know. I kind of like that. I like when Hollywood does a throwback to another movie that for inspiration, and you see that in movies. Did you like that? Do you see that interplay in the jury box that reminds you of 12 Angry Men, Martine?
Of course.
Yeah.
It's almost the same thing.
Yeah. And the other thing is how do you then what I liked about the 12 Angry Men, what I thought was really successful about that, and Clint does it here too, is the emotion so they're all in this little room, and the interplay between the actors, the discussion, the getting up, going to the window, the blocking, all this stuff to build tension in the room. In 12 Angry Men, it's about getting to justice. It's in this case, it's about our main character finding a way out of this, wiggle out of this, where he doesn't go to prison.
Exactly.
And so it's a little different there. The motives of our main characters are different in the movies, but I just think when it's kind of like that movie that we did, John, of one of the very first ones, The Incident on the Train.
Yep.
Yeah, where all of the action for the most part takes place on the train, and you see the action playing here in the room here. And even the gal that ends up as a jury foreman, she reminds me of the jury foreman in 12 Angry Men. So I just think it's when you're doing movie making and it's in this small room, this is where actors really, I think, show their chops. They show who they really are as how capable they are as an actor, right? Because it's not blowing up cars or anything like that. It's this interplay between people. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I agree. You can see the different personalities of these people in the juror room. Like Cedric Yarborough plays the black guy. I don't know if you know him. He's from Reno 911.
Oh, okay.
And he's played in a whole bunch of other stuff. Good actor. But he wanted to get the hell out of there. And he had a little bit of a racist bent because he said he's got tattoos. So obviously he's dirty. And then you got a female who's got 3 kids at home. I want to get home to my kids. They need me. These people weren't vested in what they had to do until later on. But but he never changed, Yarborough.
Right.
The guy's guilty, boom, we're done. But it's good exchange, just like in 12 Angry Men. The minute they went in the jury room, I immediately thought of that movie, which is a great movie.
Yeah, because this started out, let's see how many people went guilty. What do you mean not guilty? It's interesting. So our main character, Hoult here, I guess we should say his name is Justin. He's the character. And he at first he's slow in the roll on this because he thinks he might be the guy who did it, and he's moving towards convincing people that the guy's not guilty, right?
Right.
And then after J.K. starts an investigation he becomes aware of, he moves towards, let's get this guy convicted, right? So you see this complete change in him, and that was his this is when he became the bad guy in this whole thing, is when he decided to convict, right? Instead of
yeah.
But
I think he had a good purpose in the beginning, but once he talked to his alcoholic AA rep, who's an attorney, and told him, well, you can go to jail for this, which is bad, which is bullshit. That changed him. He said, well, wait a minute. I got a new baby coming. Let's convict this guy. So he had to change. But yeah, it made him the bad guy then.
Well, he's also like, well, you've been, convicted of 2 times before for drunk driving. They're going to get you for vehicular manslaughter and blah. Because there's no proof he was even drinking.
Right.
So how are they going to convict him of vehicular manslaughter or drunk driving when you have no evidence of either?
Right. Absolutely.
Well, they were convicting the other one with less.
Yeah.
You only have to say to the jury, oh no, he was an alcoholic. Of course he did it because he was drunk. They said no, there's no way to prove he was wrong. He was in a bar, for Christ's sake, of course. And he's fucked.
Yeah. Well, I do want to get into this whole. What obligation does Kiefer Sutherland have? I mean, he's always got 2 things going on here, right? He's the AA thing, which is confidential, right? But once he's shifted to give me $1, now he's the attorney.
Yep.
Attorney-client privilege. That's why he wanted $1.
Yep.
However, John, is he not? This is not juror interference, right? I mean, think about it. He's telling you this is what your outcomes have to be. To instead of as an officer of the court, he should be telling them, here are your obligations as a juror. Right?
I agree with that. But, he's now his defense attorney. So, and you know how unscrupulous they can be. And
Well,
right there,
remember,
he said,
he was, in our mind, he's a tax attorney, so he didn't know what the hell he's doing because he gave some really shitty advice. But
yeah, he does.
But
yeah.
Does he have legal liability? Right? I think if I get interviewed, I'm now Hoult, and I get interviewed, and I say, yeah, my attorney told me that it had to come to a judgment, right? Instead of evaluating the evidence and come to your best conclusion, right? Does he have obligations as an attorney, given that this is going on, to do something other than that? I think he does. I mean, I'm not an expert on that area.
I think he does too, but then they'll fight that tooth and nail because of attorney-client privilege. I'm allowed to tell my client A, B, and C, but he tainted the jury at that point.
He's allowed to give his client bad advice, right?
Yep.
But he's not allowed to encourage violations of the law, right? Which is what he would do.
He encouraged him to get a conviction.
Yeah.
Either totally innocent or totally convicted.
Instead of evaluate the facts, and if you feel that I don't. Here's the other thing: is they suggest that a hung jury is a bad thing in this case. I don't think so, but because
he said that because because of the bad advice, that you'll get another jury in there, they'll file it again, you won't be in that jury,
right?
They'll get a conviction, and then now you're a suspect. It's very convoluted, very much bullshit.
Yeah, I think he should, just go with, hey, not guilty. He already knows he's not guilty, right? So, and let the chips fall where they may, and then he maintains some level of a moral compass here by doing that. Jury movies almost seem nostalgic these days because only a tiny percent of the cases go to. Yeah, that's true. I was thinking the other day how many jury trials I was actually in. It wasn't that many. They usually ended at a motion to suppress once the motion was either granted or denied. Usually denied. The guy took a plea, right? Because it's like, isn't it like 97% take pleas, Scott? I think it's pretty high.
The only time I ever went to court was when it was back in those days. You had the 3 strikes you're outlaw. So a lot of guys that were facing their 3 strikes would take it to jury trial. So I didn't have most of mine were all plea deals.
Yeah.
We go to prelim, put out your evidence, and the judge would, of course, side your way, and then the next thing you know, it's like you don't hear anything, and then when you go to the DA's office and go, hey, what happened to this case? Oh yeah, he pled to. But sometimes they tell you what they pled to, and you're like, what? We had a guy. We've arrested him twice for possession of an AK-47. Several convictions. We do a search warrant on his house, and he throws the gun out of the house through a window right at a deputy that he didn't know was outside the window. So she actually caught it when he came out the window. So he got 45 days time served.
Whoa.
I'm like, what?
Well, here's the other thing. In the midst of a trial, the DA goes and talks to the suspect.
Yeah.
Okay, never going to happen. All right, never going to happen. Never going to happen. But hey, we do have a comment. Yes, I've known public defenders too, and there's some good public defenders, and there's some who are just seeking justice. And they would talk about, hey, I'm doing my bit, and every now and then I come across a case where I know the guy is innocent, and that's when I really enjoy my job, and but I also came across a lot of public defenders are just true believers of whatever. I don't know what. They're utopian, they're anti-police, social justice warriors, and they're just plain wrong, even in the face of common sense sometimes. I mean, I worked with some folks on some programs, including public defenders and alternate public defenders, and they were great when we developed programs. But every now and then, they would have somebody come in, like we did one where it was a rapid diversion program, and I worked with the head of the alternate public defender's office and the project guy for the public defender's office, and we got this program done. And then we brought in some, and it was a diversion program where they would go to the judge, and if they had mental illness, they'd be offered go to jail or go to treatment, and that would be held over their head. But
why is that an option?
Well, if they're mentally ill, the goal is to get them in treatment, right? So these were for low-level crimes in Skid Row, right? And but the public defenders did not want the person talking to, because we had a mental health professional that would screen them, and they would take a look at their mental health issues. And if it was felt that the mental health issues contributed to some of their criminal behavior, that it might be an option, right? And the public defenders wouldn't let. Here was their stance. I would rather. It's a better deal for my guy to go to jail for a weekend than to go into your treatment program. That's what some of the public defenders thought, right? And so they were resistant of the program because of that. They felt it's a better deal to just do a weekend or a week in jail for him than to have to commit to a 6-month program of treatment. That's and this is crazy. I mean, ultimately it worked out. They won over a lot of the public defenders with the program, and but they are, zealously guarding their client, even to the point where it's detrimental to the client, is what I felt. So I don't know if you've seen that, Scott, where they should be making a deal, or I don't know. Most public defenders probably realize the strengths and weaknesses of a case and encourage their client in the right direction. Maybe that's why we only get these plea bargains. So have you run into public defenders that are just, they're out there in left land, la la land, and they ignore the realities of the case just because they're ideologically driven? Have you come across that, or were they more just pragmatic people?
Oh yeah, I've run into a couple. I bet you can usually tell when you go to the prelim and you're like, I mean, if you do it long enough, you run into the same ones and you're like, oh, here we go. This one hates cops. And then they get up there to, present their side in the prelim, and it's all about, oh, the cops did this, the cops did that. The judges are like, what are you talking? It just, and then the one of the cases I had, we argued for 2 days about not bringing up the guy's tattoos. His whole face is tattooed.
Right.
So he comes into court and he's got bandages everywhere. And the guy was like, Judge, Your Honor, he cannot bring up any gang affiliation, blah, 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 blah. It was an attempted murder case. He's like, so you can't bring up the gang affiliation. So I get, the judge says, detective, you can't bring it. And then he starts asking me about how I identified him. And I look at the judge like, what? I can't. And then I just said, I can't answer that. And then he's like, oh, Your Honor, he's holding. And the judge finally looks at the public defender and he goes, when you're going down a road, that if you keep going down, what we discussed is going to come out, because that's the only way you're allowing him to get his testimony in.
Yep.
And he just kept down the road. And finally, I looked at the judge and he goes, go ahead. And I said, well, I recognized him from the numerous tattoos described to me by the victim. And he's like, Your Honor, and he's like, you asked the question. He's got to answer it. Sorry, keep going. But he would do that in one time he held up, he said, how much is in this sugar packet? And I said, I don't know, it's sugar. He goes, well, you say that my client had this amount of cocaine, but how much is in here? How can you be sure how much he had? And I said, I don't know. I arrested him for it, and then I had it tested, and they told me how much it was. He goes, well, would you say it was less and more than this packet of sugar? And the judge is like, no, move on. He would always try that goofy stuff like that. It was like, oh, God, here comes so-and-so. And it was always anti-cop stuff. He did it because the cops were doing something to him. It was always something totally ridiculous. And he used to get chastised every time we go to court about asking just dumb questions that had it wasn't pertinent to anything in the case. and he was always trying to get you on the pitches motion.
Yeah,
he pitch motion everything. But my problem with the movie is, where was the public defender's investigator?
Yeah.
It's a capital murder crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about the same thing. They didn't have one. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Usually that's the first thing you ask the defense attorney in court. It says, Your Honor, we want to all of our investigators are busy. We want an outside investigator. And the judge is like, okay, well, that means the county, because they also control the public defender's office, now has to go out and get a private eye to do the investigation. And the last one you want is a former cop, because he's going to take your case to pieces.
Yeah.
So here they are showing the verdict here, but what the other thing most people don't know, because you're talking, Scott, about a lot of stories, is it usually was just in front of a judge, right?
Yep.
The preliminary hearings in front of a judge, motions to suppress are in front of a judge, hearings leading up to trial, like you're talking about, where you're going to hide the tattoos. A lot of that that's not in front of the juror, right? The jury.
No,
and so
they're not there.
What I notice is a lot of the times they would play some of the antics. The defense attorneys would do something, but it's just the judge, and the judge he's not going to be, he or she's not going to be swayed by that nonsense,
No.
generally. And so, were they just putting on a show for their client is what it comes down to for me, or just asking questions just to disrupt you, just to get you off your stride as a witness, as a cop. And here's the other thing that I think most people don't know is, one of the reasons why cops get attacked on the stand is generally you're the primary witness against the bad guy. So the defense attorney has to somehow destroy your credibility, and you're constantly defending your credibility on the stand, right? The credibility in your investigation and yourself personally, and so when that happens, and you have to be ready for that if you're going to testify, right, Scott?
Oh, they're going to come at you for whatever they can. But a lot of guys, you could tell, are getting angry on the stand. I never got angry. I was like, it's a game. I always looked at my career as a big game. Maybe it's because I played football for so long or whatever, but to me, it was always a game.
Yeah.
It's just a game. So he's going to do whatever he can to make me look like an idiot, and my job is to sit up there and not get upset about it. And eventually he asks so many dumb questions that the judge admonishes them. And then the juror's like, well, the judge is telling him to, get on with it. But this movie, this is one thing that really stood out to me, is the prosecution or the defense never called the investigators. They never testified.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't understand that. That usually that's the first guy on the stand is the detective, but they never called him either way.
Yep.
Well, I totally agree with that. I think though, because it's Hollywood and they wanted to keep this compact, because that could have made another hour in that show, that movie, is they leave that stuff out. They wanted to make this a moral story about the actual one that did the accident, Nicholas Hoult, and the other guy, and the confliction of the DA, she gets conflicted, especially at the end. They didn't want to do the police work stuff. It would have been too long. It was all a moral play more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah. They really didn't get a good police investigation going until the juror J.K. started doing it, right? And which ultimately led to the right path.
But did you notice she didn't even have an investigator doing it?
No,
the
she did
DA
herself.
She started looking up all the cars.
Yeah.
That he gave her, and then realized it was Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
She did all the work. That never happens.
Yeah.
No.
No. Well, I mean,
I need you to go out and investigate this.
Let's be fair to the DAs, right? So what happens when you walk into a courtroom with a DA? They got a stack of files, right? They're and generally in prelims, they got, DAs, they got multiple cases going, and we do have good stories. So thank you for but they're all true life. Is the thing about it is is that I'm just commenting on what one of the comments said, but they're busy, so she's not going to have time to go out in the field.
No, they
no,
walk in
right?
with a stack of cases, and then basically the prelim is they read the police report, or they call you on the stand. They basically go over the police report, and then it's the public defender or their defense attorney asks you a bunch of questions. Then they want a motion to suppress, and the judge 9 times out of 10 said, "No, we're moving forward," and then you never hear again because they pled out.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right, John. So here we are. This is the bench scene. That right? She's sitting on the bench. Scott talked about it a little earlier. She knows there's a problem with this case. She knows that there is reasonable doubt. She's convinced herself. That's why she's sitting down on the bench talking to this juror, right? She knows
He's
that
the
it
only
leads
one
to
that
his
showed
house.
up.
She's already been to his house and met his wife, right? So what's her obligation? Her obligation is to dismiss this case at this point, right?
I agree. Yeah. She should have gone back to
at
the
this
judge.
point, wait. But at this point, they are. He's been.
She can still dismiss. It hasn't been sentenced yet. So
no, they just the sentence has just been said.
Oh, just been
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Well, even
he was
still,
sentenced.
she could
He
do a
was the
motion,
only
but
one
she could have done it earlier. So she could have done it earlier, where she just dismissed the case. And let's talk about the political optics, John. So you're running for DA. It comes to your attention that there is exculpatory evidence for this guy, and you have the courage to stand up. I'm sorry, that sells politically, like you're being a DA.
Yep.
And you just say that, hey, exculpatory evidence came forward that convinced me that he is not guilty, that I cannot, that my ethics, my ethical obligation is to dismiss this case and pursue the additional evidence before I.
Absolutely.
That's her ethical obligation, right? And so I'm running for DA, and I do that, and of course it gets everybody's attention. I'm not new. Say, listen, I can't talk about it, but there's some serious questions on this case that require me, per law, to dismiss this case and pursue that evidence, even risking, because now the defense, right? Scott can say, well, we want this to be not the court to declare not guilty and with prejudice, right? We don't want him to have to go through double jeopardy again. So there's a lot of things playing here. But what is the moral obligation? I'll go with you, Scott, first. What is the moral obligation of the DA once she is convinced there is significant reasonable doubt in this case, right? She's got to dismiss at that point as soon as she finds out.
Absolutely. And to go back, I mean, it's Hollywood, so of course they got to. But a mistrial would have been declared based on him and the cop investigating. She wouldn't have, and then the defense attorney brings it up. This is a mistrial. This is you have two guys doing jury misconduct, and you're going to absolve the one because the other guy says, "Well, he wasn't involved." Well, you were together with the. I don't care if you were together. You can claim you weren't, but I'm not an idiot if I'm a judge. So both of them would have been dismissed, and I would have called a mistrial because there's jury misconduct. Yep. You don't just go, well, we're just going to keep moving forward. And then as the DA, you know that there's evidence now that doesn't support a conviction, and you just let it go. And then afterwards, because you got elected as the DA, now you decide to go look into it with buyers. I didn't understand that either.
Yeah, because she's opening herself up to ethical because she let it go through, because she knew early enough that she could have interceded before the conviction, which in terms of her ethical standards, she might. I mean, I don't even think they hold. Yeah, a lawsuit.
Would be incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Because could you imagine under deposition what she has to say? Well, I'm investigating the case while I'm prosecuting it. And I'm investigating, right? I'm investigating because I have doubt, and but there's another piece, John, and I'll ask you this: is he doesn't want to disappoint his wife. Remember the argument saying you went to a bar, you didn't tell me, but I didn't drink, and she gets mad at him, right? And so part of this is, he's afraid of losing her, right? That's He's afraid, and that comes out in this. He's afraid of losing her because he sees her as the most important thing in his life because
she's his anchor, and they have a baby now.
And they have a baby coming.
After apparently she had a miscarriage before, so.
Right. Doesn't want to disappoint. So part of his thing is, how can I, because I think how can I be a good dad? And because he says on the bench, husband, recovered, I'm got all these good things going for me. Right. That's, so he's actually justifying it to himself. He's a bad guy. I'm a good guy. It's okay to convict a bad guy of a crime he didn't commit. That's what he convinces himself of. Right, John?
Yeah. And he says it to the DA. He says, would you rather get rid of the case and then go after a good man?
Yes.
I maybe, it's like the little tete-a-tete between the two, you're like, wow, he had some serious issues.
Yeah, his moral compass is a little off.
A little? Yeah. It's tilted.
It's tilted. Yeah.
But hers is too.
If he would have just came forward and said, as the trial started, just went in and said, hey, this guy, to the DA and anybody that would listen, the defense attorney, and say, look,
well,
I might have hit her. I might have hit her. I thought I hit a deer. I didn't, and then I looked around. I didn't find anything, so I thought I just hit a deer and I drove home.
Well, he wanted to do exactly that, but his lawyer told him, "No, you're going to away for 30 years."
His lawyer screwed everything up.
Yeah, and that's hey John, I see your comment, and we have done some documentaries, but not true crime documentaries. Some of the documentaries had more political bents to them. I did Minneapolis, the Fall of Minneapolis documentary, right? And we did another one, Martina. I can't think of it now, but
no, I only remember that one. The Fall
just
of
the one,
Minneapolis.
yeah. So, but we have done movies that are true life. Like we did The Onion Field, right? That was not a documentary, but it was really close to life. And we did the one down the Brazil guys, the special. It was fictional, but it was a true story about
elite troop.
Yeah, elite troop of what was going on there. So we do some true crimes that are based upon true stories. But yeah, I'll consider that Lost Paradise. I'll look it up and maybe we can do it. But this guy is not the only one that had some moral issues, right? It's we have
everybody
the DA.
Has moral issues.
Everybody, here. And to be quite frank, everybody kind of failed. Clearly, he did, right?
The black dude on the bridge when they're standing there.
Oh, that was the word, because
I don't care if he murdered her or not.
Yeah.
The fact that he let her walk away in the rain.
Yeah.
She's a woman. How could you do that?
No matter what happened to her.
Yeah. And earlier we talked about his tats. So there's a prejudice there. And and he didn't want to think of anything else but himself, the black guy. Same with the female. The one that looked okay was the Asian girl that had all the stats.
Yeah.
Right.
And brought all that stuff up and read stuff. She looked like she had a moral compass. But she was influenced by both sides.
Right.
Of the argument.
And the old lady too. That's the part that I don't get it. Okay. Because they were by the end, they were split in 50-50.
Right.
And Nicholas Hoult, he decides when they are on the bridge, and because what really pushes him is hearing the black guy saying, "I don't care. This is a bad guy, and I'm going to convict it no matter what." That's the moment in which he says, "Well, I think I will have to go with guilty too because I need that that verdict."
Yeah,
that is when he folds. But the rest of the people, how did they get convinced to vote guilty? We don't see that.
Really, absolutely, Martin. They didn't address that at all. How'd the other? I mean, it was 6-6. So even if he goes to guilty, that's still
5. There's still 5.
Still 5 left. How did they get turned to the other side?
True.
Yeah, they leave that left unsaid. Yeah, I think you can say that since he was the one that was first held up. and then now he sways and the rest fall. And that goes to groupthink, right? And people's inability to think independently. And we say that all the time. People they follow the herd.
Yep,
right?
groupthink. You know, the white guy and the white girl, they were from day one, he's guilty. And they hemmed and hawed, but they always stayed that he was going to be guilty. They really didn't want to look at the evidence.
No.
He's guilty. But, yeah, it's just different than what we're used to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be fair. We've all said this would have never gotten past the filing, right?
True.
No DA would have let this happen, and I'm sure there's jurisdictions around the country, small jurisdictions where we see political pressure pushes the prosecution even when the evidence isn't there. But I'm sorry, even the hardest law and order DA, I don't see this getting past their desk. I just, I need more evidence, right? And
it would be a reject from day one.
Yeah, and I
would have wrote my file, presented case to DA so case rejected.
Yeah, but you would. What would you have done? You'd have continued doing the investigation, right? That you'd have continued, pulling strings to see what you come up with until you get to some conclusion.
If they said there's no way you're ever going to get this filed, then it would be like, okay, that's just going in the dead files because it's rejected, and they're not going to. But if they said you need more, then I would start looking for more. But a lot of times it was like, I've looked for more. This is all I got.
Yeah. I think they had the coroner on there, and he said, well, it could have been this, it could have been that. Her injuries, right?
Right.
I don't know. I think we'll put it this way: seasoned coroners would have looked at that scene and would have looked at all the options. And they wouldn't have narrowed it. And I think they would have considered the conditions, considered the roadway, what was going on, and her type of injuries. And I don't think it would have come, because they have to say, generally a coroner has to say this was a homicide, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that happening in this case. So, I mean, that's a stretch too. Because I think there's undetermined is also an option, right, for a coroner.
Yeah,
right?
undetermined circumstances.
Yeah, so I think this one would have been
Could go either
undetermined
way.
circumstance because clearly her body would have had some. But see, we don't know how much force. It could have been just minor force that caused this drunk lady to relatively minor force, and she would not have been seriously injured by the car.
Well, she landed on rocks.
Yeah.
Her head split wide open.
More of a nudge, and she goes over, and then and she hits the rocks below, and that's what kills her. I think
it do a lot of damage to his car. It was just kind of the headlight and the area around the head. So how hard did he actually hit her?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's like she's on a road at night, as they said in the testimony. It was kind of slippery and muddy, and she's drunk, so she doesn't have good balance, right?
Right.
And she probably didn't even hear the car coming because of the heavy rain. And so it probably wasn't that much of an impact. And so I don't know. I think the coroner's office would have.
And also when he went to supposedly a different place, he went to get his car fixed, and he said it happened in a different place. But again, even with the rain, if he hit a deers are like hitting a block wall. Yeah. I've seen cars hit deers, and it's like hitting a rock. I mean, a block wall, and your car's going to be damaged. And there's going to be fur, skin, blood, everything else in there.
Yeah. See it all the time out here where I'm at.
Huh?
Oh, with deers?
I see it all the time out here in Tennessee where I'm at, in rural Tennessee. People hit deer all the time. And my neighbor's granddaughter hit one, and it messed up the grill of her car, and there was fur and stuff stuck all over her car.
Hell, at Wayside back in the day, one of the civilians was driving in her Corvette. Deer jumped in front of her, splat. That Corvette was totaled.
Right, yeah.
And the deer gets up and runs away.
Well, our cars are designed to crunch too, right? So then,
true. But you're going to see a shitload of damage and blood and fur, everything.
Yeah.
They didn't mention any of that.
He did everything right, like we said earlier. He did everything right until he got on the jury.
Yep.
Right.
He could have stopped the whole process by just going, hey, I might have hit her. I would have went in and said, look, I might have hit her. I was driving down Old Quarry Road and I hit something about that time. I don't know
about that area.
Time. In that area, I hit something and I didn't. I looked everywhere, couldn't find anything. So I thought I hit a deer. I drove home. I went and got my car fixed. And now I'm on this jury. And he says at the beginning that he hadn't been following the case.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the old guy, the witness, hey, if you're the investigator and you go out, hey, did you see? Yeah, I saw a guy get out of his car and he was walking around looking at it, looked around and then got in his car and left. You're scot-free.
Yeah, I know. Because you stopped.
Because you stopped.
You looked.
You looked. You didn't find anybody.
Absolutely right.
Yep.
And then now you find out. You say, Your Honor, I haven't. When you're asked, I have not been following this case.
This is why you don't use your AA sponsor, who's a tax attorney, to get legal advice from when you're in a criminal thing, right? You know, because they don't really say what Keith Sutherland's what kind of law he practices. They don't say that, but he gave him really terrible advice, and because I think we go back to, okay, I think it might have been me, so that's reasonable doubt, and you just say, hey, there's reasonable doubt that, because it doesn't even say, the old man doesn't even say that he hit her.
Right.
Say, they're saying this is blunt force trauma. That's the prosecution's theory. Nobody sees that. So I have reasonable doubt she could have just slipped and fell, and that would have been reasonable. And you can't, and just hung to that. And either it would have been a hung jury or would have convinced everybody else to be not guilty. But that's the right path forward for him, at least morally, if he doesn't want to at least acknowledge that he's the suspect. And that's a reasonable moral thing to do, right? If you want to protect yourself, but you still don't want to be you don't want to do this injustice. That is still within the range of morally acceptable behavior, I would say.
Absolutely.
What do you think, John?
Oh, I totally agree with you.
I think that Kiefer Sutherland is getting away here. We're his character advising him to do the things that he did. I think is. Although don't tell me. So a lawyer's advice gets you off the moral compass thing to do. That's not hard to believe, right? So, but it was his character that pushed him down the wrong way in this case. I still think that there has to be, because if you think about it, if he testifies, if he now tells the truth, which I don't think he will. Wait, this is a mess though. First, you have to undo the conviction, right?
Yep.
Right, and you have to acknowledge that there's another suspect. Right, and that suspect was in fact on the jury. Oh my God, I think I'd rather try to get a hung jury and try to get elected, based upon or dismissing the case and get elected based upon doing the right thing, than trying to hold on to office after exposing the mess. I mean, I'm not sure which is. I think it's. Because now think about it, she's the DA and she's got this mess on her hands that she could have stopped a lot sooner. And
absolutely, before it ever went to the final juror.
Yeah. So all right. So let's talk about Clint Eastwood. We just got about 10 minutes left. So this is a good movie. So here we go. A 92-year-old guy out there filming. I forget how long the filming was, maybe a month or so. It didn't look like they had a ton of locations. It was all done in Savannah, Georgia. And he's still making good. He's still hitting home runs, right, John?
Yep. Like he said, don't let the old man in. He just keeps chugging along.
It'd be interesting because I thought he said he was retiring, a few years ago, and then here he's made a few movies since he retired. Because I think he said he was going to retire. And what's that? Cry something? I forget the name of that.
Cry
movie.
Macho.
Cry Macho.
Yeah.
And then this one, I think there was another one. So it's like I'm sure he has a lot of leisure time as well, but he seems like he gets enticed. He'll be 96 in May. It'll be interesting. Will he make another movie? Will he make a movie at 100 if he makes it?
No, he's 95 right now. He'll be 96 in May.
Yeah, that's. But yeah, Scott, what do you think? Good work. Good movie by Clint Eastwood. Even in as what do they call it? Not an what's a 90-year-old. Septarian is 70s. We'll have to look that one up. What's that?
Octarian is 80s, so
No.
I don't know what a
No, it's well, I don't know in English. Trying to roughly translate from Spanish to English would be nonagenary.
Oh yeah, nonagenary. Is that did I say that right? No.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go to Google.
Or is it El Grande Papi?
Yeah, but I think he's done some good work, and this just adds to his body of work, and because it says they announced. Yeah, go ahead.
The word is nonagenarian.
Nonagenarian. I've actually never heard that before, so
I'm gonna put it on the chat.
That's a mouthful.
There you go.
That's
Nonagenarian.
Nonagenarian. That's a mouthful. So, but
I won't ever be that.
No.
Just an FYI, in case you didn't realize it, the victim, the female, that's Clint Eastwood's daughter.
Oh, it is.
Really?
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yep. Kendall.
Yeah, I still wouldn't want to fight Clint. Yeah, me neither.
Daddy, can you come out of the retirement and do this movie for me? Oh, sure, babe. No problem. We got Eastwood Animal Shelter just down the road here. Patty's my wife's been to a few times, so I forget if it's his daughter, one of his daughters, and I think it's one of his kids has it open, and so she's been down there a couple times because she's a great animal lover. We had a little hummingbird that ended up on our patio, and the mom was coming down and feeding it for a week, but it didn't make it. And yeah, it was a little baby. Huh? No, he was just.
That's why you get cats.
He was chirping away there, and mom just didn't feed him enough, and I think he just keeled over. Boom. And yeah, Patty was all busted up because she got attached to that little guy as he was. I had to kind of water the plants around him to not disturb him. So but yeah, so it was not his lucky day or lucky week. But yeah, so and I saw Clint Eastwood one. I think I told you the story. It was up in. I was going to the Naval Postgraduate School leadership program, and we went to Carmel to his restaurant. He was there having toast and tea. That's the other thing. I'm curious as to what his longevity. He's clearly not having steaks every night with potatoes, and he stays trim, and he seems healthy even at 92, and he seems clearly alert, or 90, 95, clearly alert.
Yep. Oh, very.
Because we look at a lot of our actors. They live this life where they abuse their drugs and all kinds of other stuff, and they die young. But not Clint. Not Clint.
And then
right?
You also have Dick Van Dyke, the liberal, but he's 100 years old, and he was an alcoholic for 30 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he was a big alcoholic back in the day. Cleaned himself up, and look at him. But he's always in motion. He was a dancer.
Oh yeah,
remember Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and all that?
Yeah.
He's always been a dancer, and he's always in motion, always doing something. Clint's the same way. He always does something. He doesn't let the old man in, is his saying. He just keeps pushing forward. And look at Van Dyke.
My first neighbor at our very first house, he used to walk around the block every day. 3 times. He'd do it in the morning, he'd do it like at noon, and then he'd do it before it got dark. And he lived to be 96. And I said, "Why? You walk every day." He goes, "You die. If you stop moving, you die."
He's right.
Okay, so here's a tidbit for you. So Clint Eastwood served in the Army from 1951 to 1953 during the Korean War. Yep. Drafted while attending college, stationed at Fort Ord, California, and worked as a swimming instructor and lifeguard. Notably, he survived a 1951 plane crash in the ocean after a Navy bomber was hitched a ride. He was hitching a ride on the failed flight. So I mean, here's another thing. So he was. I mean, my kids were into aquatics, so they did swimming and water polo. I can tell you, if there's one sport that is keeps you fit, it's swimming. I don't know if you've ever seen a water polo match, but it's brutal, and I did see this thing that when SEALs are looking for candidates, they'll look to people who played competitive water polo because they can handle the physical aspects of it. But so he was think about it. If he was a swimmer, then and he probably still swims, he still works out. It's
probably
good. Unlike building it up to be a linebacker or a lineman, right, Scott? You're putting on an extra 100 pounds to push it other 300-pounders around. He's swimming and staying fit, and he's not abusing his body. Sam Peckinpah was another great filmmaker before Clint tried his hand at directing. Sam Peckinpah, if I remember correctly, I think he did the one
Wild Bunch.
The Wild Bunch, which I think is a fantastic movie.
Did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's for me. That's one of the best anti-hero kind of movies, the Sam Peckinpah movie, and it got a lot of criticism at the time. And it did open the door for these anti-hero westerns like that. Clint was that was where him and John Wayne had a conflict, right? Clint was willing to do these anti-hero kind of westerns, and John Wayne saw everything in black and white, good and bad. He didn't like that crossover, that genre that Clint got into with the anti-hero, which you kind of see with Dirty Harry as well, right? You see that same kind of character in a lot of his work. Because The Unforgiven, probably one of the it's hard to say what Clint Eastwood's best work is, but I really liked Unforgiven. $1 Million Baby was good.
I saw that. I thought it was a little slow, but after it was all done, I'm like, damn, this was a really great movie.
We got just 3 minutes. So best movie for Clint Eastwood, John.
Oh, Jesus. The ones on World War II where the Japanese were
Iwo Jima. Yeah.
Letters to My Father, something like that. And the other one. He did 2 of them.
Right.
Those that he directed. I can't think of their names right now. I think Letters to My Father but it was it was pinpoint.
Letter from Iwo Jima and oh my God, I can't
remember the other one. Both of them were outstandingly directed. And I mean, they hit you here and here.
Yeah. What about you, Scott? Best Clint Eastwood movie?
That's the one where he's the old man and he's got the Thai family or what the gang?
Oh, Gran Torino. Gran Torino.
Yeah. Gran Torino. Great movie.
Yeah.
When you talk about westerns, though, Josie Wales, one of the top 5 westerns
that's
ever
one of my
made. Favorites.
I still watch that. Are we going to bury him, Josie? No, birds got to eat too.
So Gran Torino and Letters to you. What about you, Martine? What do you think?
Gran Torino.
Gran Torino, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent movie. Excellent.
I loved all of those movies, but I have to say I'm partial to westerns, so I would have to go with Unforgiven. With
that'd be my second choice.
And
that was a great movie, but Josie Wales is in the top 5 westerns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pale Rider was good too. Pale Rider was good. I mean, he had a lot of great westerns and a lot of great movies. But we are at the end of reviewing the movie Juror number 2. Good movie. Great effort by Clint Eastwood, and not surprised that it was a really good movie. And thank you guys again for joining me here on Morning Coffee with the Chief. And I like Josie Wales and Pale Rider. They were both good movies as well. And thank you, Gambit and John, for joining us here on Morning Coffee with the Chief. And we will see you next week. Martine, you can take it away.
Bye, everybody.
Don't come back now, you hear?
Matt Damon.